Hello all, this is John White on the 12th of May 2017 and I'm going to do a video about the Labour Omni Shambles, which is currently unfolding like a disaster train wreck before our very eyes. Now look, the Labour Party is a long way away from gaining my electoral trust for this election, and I think the chances that I was ever going to give a vote to Labour were looking very slim on the Brexit issue alone. Okay, so straight up, I'm not a migrating Labour supporter. I haven't voted Labour ever, actually. Well, I did vote Green when I was younger. Equally, I don't intend to vote for the Conservative Party, but that is a decision partly based in the political demographics in the actual constituency in which I live, because of course with general election choices one has to take account for what is achievable with a first past the post system, and where I happen to live, the Tories achieved over 55% of the vote share last time, and it simply is electorally impossible for the Tories to fail to hold this seat, so they don't need my vote. So I'm getting out of the way because I want to make clear I don't have an axe to grind against Labour. I'm not concerned about Labour. I don't mind a Labour government if one got in. I did quite well during the years of the last Labour government, but my political focus is of course very largely concerned with the issues around Brexit. So I'm trying to set a background here so that I can try and explain to people who might hear this where I'm coming from. You know, I'm not an anti-Labour guy. I'm not an anti-Corbyn guy. I have my issues with Corbyn in terms of what kind of politician he really is based on an objective look at his record over the last 40 years and the consequences of the choices he has made since becoming Labour leader, especially his choice to bring Labour and Momentum out for Remain last year and side with the EU plutocracy, which has so brutally abused Southern Europe. And frankly, for a socialist to show solidarity with the EU takes some very serious contortions. And of course, I'm also very well aware that there is an active Labour Leave contingent within the Labour Party. I spent significant time in my referendum campaigning last year getting Labour Leave's message heard in Labour Party places, because I felt that's where I could do the most good for campaigning for the Leave vote. And I'm very familiar with Labour Leave and the people behind it. You know, so I've got friends within the Labour Party, and I'm also not against the broad strokes of having a robust social policy. What I am against is creating elaborate government bureaucracies for their own sake, and creating a situation where unions can play silly games with the country for selfish and spurious reasons, i.e. a return to the days of 1979, which of course was a big factor in why Labour failed to secure the public trust in 1983. Okay, so look, this week's events, a couple of days ago, something of a cock-up from the message control point of view for Corbyn's Labour Party happened, which of course was the leak of the draft manifesto the evening before the party was due to have its meeting of all its different groups to actually sign off on that manifesto. Why that leak happened is unclear, but the people who had access to that document, a somewhat limited circle, so you know the list of suspects is not so long, But whether it was done to pressure the moderate part of the Labour Party into accepting a more hard left manifesto, whether it was done to embarrass Labour by forcing it to explain hard left policies to a hostile media for an extra week during a critical election campaign by moderate Labour people, whether it was something personal about Corbyn, why this was leaked, whether this was internal backstabbing or whatever the reason is, where that leak came from, the leak happened. And the result is quite clearly the most purist Labour Party manifesto we have seen since Micheal Foot's election campaign in 1983. We're talking full return of the power of the unions, massive government spending, lots of spending for the different Labour core constituency groups to address their concerns, which all sounds wonderful, perhaps in a way, except for how it's done. We'll come back to that in a moment. But also, of course, the key thing with this manifesto, as it's been leaked, is its position on the EU, where by saying that Labour would not accept a no-deal situation, Corbyn is committing Labour to accept whatever deal the EU ultimately comes up with, no matter how bad it is, and even if it might mean that we remained in the European Court of Justice, or in the single market, or subject to European free movement, any combination of those three, of course, amounting to not really Brexit at all. And I had an email this morning from Labour Leave, which are currently urgently seeking clarification and appealing for the party to modify its policy. I mean, that's not good in itself, is it? But, and with this phenomena where we can recognise that long-term, lifelong Labour voters are converting to vote for the Tories in the first time in their lives on the basis of this strong urge for Brexit defence, it's just incredible. So, okay, look, I've been talking to people over the last 24 hours. And again, I'm not unsympathetic, I'm not hostile to Labour per se, and to the socialist values of Labour per se, and I've just been trying to get some kind of rational discussion of, well, how do you see your position now resulting in some kind of victory in just 4 weeks' time, and Jeremy Corbyn walking in to number 10 Downing Street? And of course, there's very hard to give a good answer to that right now. Because this manifesto is shocking. It's shocking in its audacity. But why Corbyn has felt the need to try to do so much fundamental radical change, effectively trying to undo the last 35 years of social development inside the UK, and to seek to do that in one parliament, and with no objectivity or sense of control about how much any of this is going to cost. It just seems incredible to me that any professional politician would propose to go into an election campaign like that. But nevertheless, that is where we are. And I mean, let's take, for instance, tuition fees for students. Of course, it's a given, right, that in the universities up in Netherlands, students will vote in significant numbers for the abolition of tuition fees. Of course they will. It's a basic appeal to self-interest political argument, and they tend to work well. The problem is that if you put all of the students and all of the D's and the E's social categories together, you've got nothing like enough to have a shot at getting the necessary votes to form a government if you can't also take those C1 and C2 average wage earners with you and have their confidence to vote for you. And this is, precisely what an incredible largesse of his proposed spending bonanza is not going to do. People know that someone's got to pay for this. And it can't all be just bunging on the corporations, because if you approach taxation in such a blunt way, you're going to kill growth in the economy, and the knock-on effect of that is going to make these proposals completely unaffordable. Okay, so why has Corbyn done this? I think there's a number of perspectives. One is that this is about a go-for-bust power grab to restore power to Corbyn's version of the Labour Party and its crucial backers in the unions, and just to go for it, try and win, and grab the power, and therefore make it as extreme as it needs to be. It doesn't matter. It's the power grab aspect. And maybe hope that people won't have the time to scrutinise it enough to start to wonder whether these promises are in any way credible. I don't know, that's one possibility. Another is that Labour knows it can't win an electoral majority anyway, because all of the polling data, and I'm talking about the proper scientific research polling data, not the phone-in polls or the Twitter polls, but the properly conducted scientific electoral research, just says that Labour's uphill battle, and let's not forget, Labour just lost 360 council seats at the beginning of this month, and for the party to take that kind of major kicking in council elections, but somehow turn around and form a government just 4 weeks later, I mean that's simply against all electoral sense that a public's mood can shift that quickly. Saving some utter disaster befalling the Conservative opposition. It would just destroy the Conservative credibility to be voted for. And I don't know, maybe Corbyn was hoping that the CPS would go ahead with prosecuting Tory MPs, and that would produce that for him, but that isn't what's happened. And on that topic, I think for the CPS, with May having called for general election, it's very hard to then come around with a decision to prosecute the MPs. Too little, too late. The seats being refought anyway. And beneath yes, obviously, from the point of view of sites like the Canary, it's all about the Tories. But the truth is, Labour played funny buggers in the 2015 elections. Liberal Democrats played funny buggers in the 2015 elections. Nothing like on the same scale, and it was a bit naughty. I think we could say that UKIP played a little bit of funny buggers back in the 2015 election. It was not a straight election last time. It was very corrupt by willingness to break the rules to stop UKIP at any cost. Not that worked. Right. So maybe this is part of Labour's thinking, but I just get down to it. I am mind-boggled. I'm mind-boggled that, for all the things that have been said about Corbyn and his inability to lead and his unsuitability to be a leader, for all that his supporters have answered back, oh, well, no, that's not the real Jeremy, and we've elected him twice to be leader of the Labour Party, so he must be credible and electable. For all of that to and fro over the last couple of years, for Labour's failure to actually successfully oppose Corbyn with a realistic candidate last year, I mean, where were they when it mattered, when it time to be stood up in county? Where was Chuka Umunna? It was left to Andrea Eagle to take a brick through a window, and what was his name? Owen Smith from Wales, the ex-salesman for a pharmaceutical company. I mean, the leadership contest last year was a joke. Let alone the reality of the situation back in 2015, where Ed Miliband left Labour wide open to massive abuse of people joining the party for £3 to spend a vote for Corbyn. And I don't for a moment think that huge amounts of Tory and Labour supporters didn't speculate the cost of a pint to lump, as they see it, hobble the Labour Party with a socialist throwback dinosaur. But we are where we are. We are where we are today. And what I thought was, okay, you have this leak, right? What do? You've had this disastrous leak. Your plans are out a week ahead of schedule. You're not ready to talk about them. It means that you've got a week of scrutiny the other parties don't have to go through before the general election. And you've got to do something about those words. You've got to own those words. You know, you've got to say, yes, we mean it. No, we don't if it's wrong. You know, but get out there with some positivity, confidence in your own message, and stand for what you believe in. You know, that's the least you can do. No, that's not what we've seen. You know, we've seen Labour. Well, I hate to say it, but it really seems like something of a bunker mentality, you know, and cutting off the Labour Leave voters just indicates that. We're not going to bother placating that lot. We're just going to batten down the hatches and we're going to have a pure message and somehow it's all going to go right, you know. Does Corbyn really care? I mean, he's got his pension. You know, he's got a very impressive salary, you know. Does he really care about winning, or does he care about being right? And I fear that looking at Corbyn's moral decisions, his ethical choices, and the amount of times he's rebelled against his own party on a point of principle, you know, I think it seems to me that Corbyn cares far more about being right and loyal to his cliquey ideology than he does about getting Labour into power and being an effective opposition. And frankly, if I was the ordinary Labour voter who has ordinary Labour voter concerns, you know, the NHS, the welfare state, you know, public spending, you know, quality of life for the bottom rungs of society, I would be feeling pretty angry that Labour has chosen to come forward with this really extreme set of proposals in this manifesto, which just doesn't care about whether the costs involved are anywhere realistic, or even if the objectives that are being set in any way actually need to be tackled now. I mean, yes, railways privatisation has not been a benefit to the people of the UK as a whole. You know, yes, rail prices are a national disgrace. Yes, being run by European corporations has not produced a privatised rail service in the best interests of the British people. I'm quite prepared to go along with all that, but why in the name of, you know, I almost said an expletive there, but why does Labour need to commit to HS2, a massively expensive European vanity project which doesn't even have any credible economic argument behind it for the cost benefit of a project? Why? It's just like a whole billions of spending. Oh, well, you might as well have that as well, you know, let alone the cost of reprivatising rail. And do we need it now? Free education for all university students. Do we need it now? In this election, with the issues facing the country at this time, and with the need to weather the uncertainties of Brexit over the next few months, and to go to the people with this, why? You know, and what has prompted this video is the further news today. In the Telegraph, an in-depth dynamite report about Labour MPs rejecting the official Labour manifesto. In the Telegraph today, Labour MPs reject Jeremy Corbyn's manifesto as Theresa May warns the party has abandoned the working class. Okay, it's the Telegraph, you expect them to put that kind of spin on it. But let's have a look at the facts from this article. To start with, we've got predictions of up to 100 MPs break away for Labour after the election. First revealed in the Telegraph this week, began to materialise on Thursday as senior figures publicly rejected the manifesto. One Labour MP said they and their colleagues are promising Labour voters they will remove Mr Corbyn after the election in a desperate bid to win support on the doorstep. I mean, come on. Can you imagine that? All right, missus, look, trust me with your vote, right? Yeah, our leader is a little bit, isn't he? But I promise you, if you vote for me, I'll get rid of him. I mean, good luck getting someone to give you a vote on that. Furthermore, the Welsh Labour Party have launched their own manifesto. And dozens of others have said the leaders' plans to renationalise rail, mail and energy would not feature in their campaign literature. Furthermore, Frank Field, one of the party's longest-standing parliamentarians, published his own set of 10 personal pledges in a bid to persuade voters to back him. Ben Bradshaw, Labour candidate in Exeter, said he had my own Exeter manifesto when asked if he supported Mr Corbyn's blueprint, adding, "Let's get real, it's the Tory manifesto people need to be focusing on, seeing what they'll do in government, and we Labour MPs are trying to save as many good Labour MPs as possible." Well, look, fair play to the guy. I can understand where he's coming from. You know, he's in it for his constituents, one assumes. He's a genuine MP, you know, and he sees his chances of being re-elected, his hard-working colleagues' chances of being re-elected, sabotaged with this most incredible, unbelievable manifesto proposals. And again, most party has again distanced itself. And another Labour candidate described the manifesto as childish. Those who are realistic about this know we can't stand on a manifesto that has been produced by the party, so we won't mention it on leaflets and on the doorstep. Wow, you know. And this one, I think, another comment, this one really takes a biscuit. Another, fighting to hold on to a marginal seat, said, "You could promise unicorns for everyone, none of this is going to happen. It's a ludicrous document. It won't serve Labour MPs well on the doorstep, and the public have largely stopped listening and taking us seriously anyway." It's like, it's too late. I'm just reading this, and I've got this Smith song going through my head. You know, one that says, "Mother, can you feel the soil calling over my head?" You know, I'm like, wow. You know, how do you turn this into a general election victory in 4 weeks' time? I don't know, and I'm a pretty creative, imaginative guy. I don't see a way that Labour could rescue this at the moment, which is why I've described it as the ultra-mega Omni Shambles. But I don't want to be negative, right? Because, like I say, we haven't done well with rail privatisation. Tuition fees are a fucking disgrace, you know. But rather than just write out a never-ending blank cheque from the Treasury to fix this with government intervention, which is always the most expensive way of producing social change possible, wouldn't it have been more sensible to take a more measured approach and to look for a slower transformation of the rail industry, or to say to universities, right, we want you to cut back on these exorbitant lecturer fees. We want to make sure that all the money you're bringing in is actually going first and foremostly on the students. Same with health and social care. Japan has the most successful health and social care system in the world, from what I can see, and it has one crucial little rule. Yes, Japanese healthcare is provided by private healthcare providers for the large part, right? But all providers must be run on a not-for-profit basis. Just that policy alone would transform health and social care spending and make a tremendous difference, and not be this very worst of old mass taxation, mass spending plan Labour. But that's not where we are. That's not what we've got. And the chances that Labour's going to hold together here, it just seems incredible. It seems like the post-election meltdown is already happening 4 weeks before the vote. And fair play to Theresa May. It's never been more her election to lose than it is now, and based on her performance with Nick Ferrari on LBC last night, where she faced a tough line of challenge, I thought, from an NHS NHS nurse, well, I'm not sure she's a nurse or a junior doctor or what she was, calling in with, with your standard momentum 10-point crib sheet of how to blame the Tories for the NHS, and I thought she handled it very well. Although, of course, neither party wanted to mention the mass immigration elephant in the room there on why the NHS is struggling, but. It's just incredible. It's just incredible times, and again, it's fair play to Theresa May. She's had the balls to go for it, and I'm not too concerned with Cameron's meddling that he did yesterday, trying to infer that Theresa May needs a large majority to stop a hard Brexit. I think that's just him piddling in the pond. I don't think anyone takes him seriously anymore. And within the top echelons of the Conservative Party, there's no way he's coming back to the front bench. Let's put it that way. This is an incredible political offence inside the UK, and with these the trends so strongly going the way they are, I cannot see how it's not going to be a significantly improved Tory majority government being returned to Westminster at the start of June. And I think our minds need to turn rather more firmly into how we are going to hold that Tory party to account. And I particularly would draw people's attention to the fact that it was Theresa May who first sought to try to reform the Tory party from its nasty party image. And I think that therefore a May majority government could be a lot more susceptible to public pressure to soften the worst parts of the welfare state austerity the work capability assessment sanctions type schemes which are going on at the moment, which is just causing horrible human misery to those who are trapped at the bottom of the system. And I think that's right, and I think that's just, and I think that's the sort of people that Labour should be having first in their mind, not last, as appears to be the case with Corbyn's effectively selfish Trotskyist attitudes here, where, if it's right that he's chosen this manifesto to put ideological purity above all else, then he is letting down the millions of ordinary people whose natural inclination would be to return a Labour Party to government absolutely terribly. But take that as it may, perhaps with this landslide Tory majority heading for us, and with the justified concerns that the first past the post system is not accurately reflecting the views of the nation in the political balance of the Parliament, I think we have the opportunities to push for reform to proportional representation like never before, if only Labour, whether it stays as one party and splits into two, and Blair's certainly on the wings ready to make that happen, or however that goes, if we get to a situation where we can accept that certainly, apart from the SNP in Scotland, the only party with vested interest in keeping first past the post is now the Conservative Party, perhaps we really can get that PR reform. And the next election can be fought on rather more balanced, nuanced and rational manifestos based around delivering an electoral system that accurately reflects every single vote cast by every single person in deciding the direction of our nation. Okay, well, look, thanks for listening. I am, again, I said, somewhat gobsmacked by what I've been reading and hearing in the last 24 hours. I had to try to express that, hence this video. Thank you for sticking with me. John White, out.